Good morning. So today we will do the exam one exercise. So in order to, okay, good morning everyone. So today we will do exercise for exam number one. Instruction for this exercise. So for best result, you must study chapter 21, 22, and 23 before taking this exercise. And then prepare some pieces of paper and pen or pencil to write your answer. There will be 2 or 3 seconds after each question for you to write your answer before the answer key is given. And then after finish the exercise, check your answers, how many are correct and how many are incorrect. Repeat the process until you get 100% correct answers. Make sure that the 100% correct answers are based on your knowledge, not from guessing. It is very likely that you will get a very good score on your exam one if you follow these instructions correctly. Okay, we'll start with number one. Which of the following scientists studied and laid down the foundations of evolution? Okay, so choose your answer. Charles Darwin, Charles Dickens, Carolus Linnaeus, or Anthony van Leeuwenhoek? Yeah, the correct answer is Charles Darwin. Okay, so Charles Darwin is also known as the father of evolution. Number two, evolution acts at the level of the ecosystem, population, individual, or community. Yeah, the correct answer is population. So the change in population that actually part of the evolution. So the evolutions with the natural selections will change the populations. Okay, it's not individual in population, but the whole populations. Number three, based on the evolutionary theory, the speciation or evolution of species is caused by A, B, C, or D. Okay, the correct answer, this is actually the foundation of evolutions, that the one that changes or causing speciation is the natural selection. How many mass extinctions have been identified during the history of life on Earth? 2, 3, 4, or 5. So if you learn or see the tables of fossil record, there have been 5. Okay, 5 mass extinction that happenings on Earth so far. Okay, so 5 should be the answer. Derived character state shared by clade member are called. So if you see the clade or the phylogenetic tree, okay, so like this. So the new character that create the speciations, or the derived character that makes this species over here, for example, differ than the species over here, or the ancestor species is called the synamorphous. So this is called the synamorphous. The following are steps used to construct a cladogram that best reflect the evolutionary relationship of a group of species. Which step involves deciding which tree is most likely to have occurred based on the fewest character state change. So this is actually the simplest way to create the cladogram or the phylogenetic tree. We use a theory or the method is called the parsimony. So parsimony is the simplest way to create the clade or the phylogenetic tree. A group is considered monophyletic if blank. Okay, A, B, C, or D. Okay, so mono mean one or the same. Okay, phyletic mean the three. So this is the group that share a common ancestor. So all members on this group will share a common ancestor characters, okay, that include in this group. So should be share common character of the ancestor over here. So the answer should be A. All members of the group share a common ancestor that is included in the group. Birds, snakes, lizards, turtles, and crocodiles are all due to share a common ancestor and several homologous traits. Assuming that is true, this group of animal and their common ancestor would represent, again, it's going to be the same question like before. Okay, the one that share common ancestor character is called the monophyletic groups. A group is considered paraphyletic if A, B, C, D. Okay, if you see A, all members of the group share a common ancestor, and this is not the answer. This is monophyletic, right? So this is not the answer. Not all descendants of common ancestors are included. It looks like that one. Okay? The common ancestor of the group is not included in the group. The group does not contain the most recent common ancestor. So the answer will be B. Not all descendants of common ancestor actually are included. We're going to see the examples here. Okay. Number 10. This is the example of paraphyletic. Evidence suggests that crocodiles are more closely related to birds than the turtles and snakes. If so, then including crocodile, but not bird in the class Reptilia would make the class Reptilia as, okay, so bird is actually really close related to the crocodile. However, bird has own class. It's called the class Aves or bird. So this is example of paraphyletics. So not all the members that have common ancestor included in one group. So this is example of paraphyletics group. A group is considered polyphyletics if, okay, so this is actually the opposite of monophyletic. This is many characters, okay. So A, all members of the group share common ancestor. This is not the answer. Not all descendants of the common ancestor are included. So this is also not the answer. So this is paraphyletic. Right? All members share homoplastic trait. It is not the answer. The group does not contain the most recent common ancestor. That's the polyphyletics group. The study and reconstruction of phylogenies is, so if you see the phylogenic tree, okay, it should look like a tree. Okay, so this actually can be reconstructed into what we call a system or systemic. So you do it in like in taxonomy. Okay, so what kingdom, class, uh, order, family, and etc. That's what we call the systemic. So basically, the reconstruction of phylogenic is called the systemic. So systemic should be the answer. One day, after a biology class, four of your friends argue about the difference between phylogeny and systematics. Which friend is right? Okay, so based on the previous knowledge that you have, okay, from the previous question, again, the systematic is actually the reconstruction of the phylogeny. So just look at that from these four different answers. Systematic and phylogeny are the same. So this is not the same. Systemic is the same as cladistic. Cladistic is reconstructing clades. This is not also the answer. Friends C argue that systemic is actual collecting. This is not. So as you see over here, construction. So systematic is construction of phylogenies. So this one should be the answer. Characteristic between the branch points of a cladogram that are shared by all organisms above the branch point and are not present in any below it are called the, so this is actually characters that is being derived, being created for the new species, okay, from the old species. So it's going to be derived characters. Characteristics that are present in organism as a result of common evolutionary descent are said to be blank characteristic. So derived characteristic is actually taken from the ancestor. And this ancestor characteristic, then it will be called as ancestral. So this is ancestral characteristic. Choose the best cause and effect sequence for the process of speciation by natural selections. A, B, C, or D. So for the clue, so the clue for speciation, so before speciations, the species should have the what we call the reproductive isolation. And again, this is actually the definition of species, which is a group of organisms that only able to mate and produce viable offspring. It cannot be made with other species due to the reproductive isolation or barrier. To look for the answer that the speciations came after the reproductive isolation. So this one, reproductive and mutation, this is not. So this should be go here. So this is not the answer. Mutation, and then this variations, variation, selection, reproductive isolation, and then speciation. So after mutation, there is a variation, and then there's natural selection. And after natural selection, there should be reproductive isolation and then create a new species. So this is actually the answer. Okay, remember reproductive isolation, then speciation. Okay, so that's the answer for this question. The model that assume that evolution proceed with slow successive change is a given in a given evolutionary line is referred as. So for the speed or the process of evolution, there are two. There are two main process. The first one is gradual change. It's called the gradualism. And then uh, uh, punctuated. So punctuated evolution. Okay, so gradualism is a slow, slow successive change. So like for example, if we have this kind of short beak bird as the ancestor, if it is gradualisms, let's say the ends or the last or the end of speciation, the one that have long beak like this. Okay, so if it is gradualisms, then there will be this short beak is become a little bit longer. Okay, and then longer for the next generation, and then finally the longest one as the final speciation. This is gradualism. If it is punctuated evolution, okay, there will be a little bit longer, but suddenly, boom, okay, it create the longest or the end of evolution over here. So there is no intermediate. Okay, so this is the intermediate over here in gradualism. So, based on this information, slow successive changes, uh, very short, a little bit longer, a little bit longer, and longest. So this is gradualism. Punctuated equilibrium or evaluation proposed by Eldridge and Gould in 1972 is an evolutionary process that involves, remember, this is a sudden change, okay, short or spurt of change. So this is not gradual, so this is not the answer, this is not the answer. So the choice is between B or D, okay? Spurt of jam observed in the fossil record, followed by a period of stasis. Yes. So that's actually the answer. So there is a period of stasis, long period, but does not produce the intermediate, and suddenly it produces the end species. So this is should be the answer. According to biological species concept, so this is BSC, species definition. Okay, so there are two types of species definition. Okay, based on biology, and the other one is based on phylogeny, species definition or concept over here. Okay, species definition. Okay, so according to BSC, biological species concept, species are a group organism that unable or that able to mate and produce the viable offspring. So look at this question. According to BSC, two group of organisms that are unable to form fertile, viable hybrids are considered to be different what? Different species. Okay, so this is a BSC species definitions again. Okay, the definition say that species is a group of organisms that able to mate and produce viable offspring. Okay, if these two organisms are able to produce that offspring is considered as two different species. So this is basically the questions about. Now, this is the second type of definition of species based on the PSC or phylogenetic species concepts. It's declared that group is a species if it reproduces from other species. This is actually BSC, as if of one or more of its own derived characteristics. So this one actually should be the answer. It means that in the PSC, if the two organisms, different organisms, actually have some ancestor characteristic, is considered as one species. Example is, for example, like donkey and horse, based on the PSC, is considered as one species. They are very closely related. But for the BSC concept, the donkey and horse are actually different species because they are unable to produce the viable offspring, or if they produce hybrid, the hybrids will be sterile. Okay, so that's the difference between PSC and BSC. So this concept is the PSC concept. It has derived characteristics, similar derived characteristic. It will be grouped as one species. The type of speciation that results in the formation of separate species as a result of geographic isolation. So this is isolation based on place, habitat, ecosystem, okay, or based on ecology, it's going to be the same thing. So different places. This isolation is called as different allo. So allo mean different. So this is allopatric speciation. So there are two types of speciation, which is sympatric, okay, and allopatric. Sympatric mean in the same geographical area. Allopatric mean different. Speciation that is caused by different location or different geographical place. So this answer should be allopatric. If population within the same area, so the same geographical area, again, same means sim. So just is very close, very similar, sim. So the same area is gonna be sympatric speciations. So this should be A. Two populations that inhabit the same area, so the same area, but remain genetically distinct can best be called as A. So you should be able to answer this easily. What the same area? What is that? Symmetric species. Due to character displacement, two closely related species may differ most morphologically when they are. Okay, so if it is sympatric, okay, let's say from ancestral species over here, there's gonna be, let's say, two different species, okay, because they are living on the same place, their characters will be very different. So one, for example, very short, the other one very long bills or big, for example, right? Because they are living in the sympatric in the same area, they have to have different uh, characters clearly. but it is allopatric, because they live in different places or different island, for example, they might have similar morphology, but they are different species because they evolve at different place. So the one that allopatric, sometimes the species very look-alike, very similar. But if it is sympatric, because they live in the same area, they usually look very different. Okay, so this is how the speciation happening in sympatric and allopatric. So, due to character displacement, two close related species may differ most morphology when they occur in here, in sympatric, if they are sympatric. Which statement is true about speciation on island archipelagos? Again, it means that there are so many islands in this place. So what happened is create new species over here. The ancestor may be the same. So ancestor coming to this and then finally created different species due to different island or geographical area. Again, different is mean allo. So this speciation is called gonna be allopatric. So mostly caused by allopatric speciation. Several new tetraploid species of plant. So tetraploid means it has double chromosome. So mostly, okay, plant has diploid, right? 2N. Okay, if you have learned the chromosome number for diploid organism, they have 2N diploid. But sometimes, due to the environmental uh, of pressure, this diploid can suddenly change into double, called the tetraploid. Sometimes this process is also known as polyploidy, okay? Creation of species with double chromosome. Uh, this new species is arose from diploid species, yes, as I mentioned, that went through a process of alloploidy, allopolyploidy. This mode of speciation is a type of disease because this is happening in the same area, which is North America. That's gonna be sympatric, what? Sympatric. And then most of the time in the plant, the process of speciations uh, perform or will be happening in instantaneously. So sympatric, this is sympatric instantaneously. So it should be the answer should be C. So sympatric with instantaneous process. NASA scientists sent a small population of dogs to a new planet in order to test if it will be hospitable for human colonization through a random lottery. So this is a process over here. Okay, it's a lottery. There's something happening, which is in this case is lottery. If this natural process is called genetic drift, okay, it's a process that actually randomly choose the species, speciation. Uh, Only Great Dane and San Bernard dogs breeds Asen. So these two dogs is actually chosen by a random lottery. And the resulting population consists of tall, long-haired dogs. After 100 years, these dogs return to Earth and are no longer able to mate with Earth dogs. This scenario is an example of, first, This is a process that happening in different place, and there is a route tree, which is the same as genetic drift. So the process will be this is allo, okay, different place because it's taken into the space. This is allopatric over here. And there is a random lottery, which is genetic drift. So that should be the answer. This is not really natural selection, okay, because it's happening due to the human involvement. This is a artificial selection using genetic drift. Courtship of Anolis lizard involved the male displaying a dewlap skin under the throat area that varies in appearance based upon the species. Lizards are found in darker, more shaded environment will have dewlaps that are lighter. So what is lighter for is going to be easy to be seen by the mate. Okay, so lighter in color because they are more noticeable by the potential mates. Which of the following mechanism best explain how speciation is at work in this example? So this is due to the natural selection actually. Okay, it's happening in the natural, in nature. Is this selection is caused by the nature. So it's going to be natural selection, which is the main process of evolution in nature. Imagine two species of bird with similar big size and diet, where the two species are allopatric. We would expect that their big size. So I already explained if it is allopatric, okay, the big size is gonna be very similar because they are evolved in different place. So these two species might have big size that very similar because they are allopatric. If they are sympatric, their big size gonna be a lot different. Okay, so look at the best answer for it. Should be more different when it is sympatric. That's already the answer for that. Okay, so it's gonna be more different if it's sympatric. It's gonna be more similar if it is allopatric. Oh, yeah, I'm telling you, the more similar over here. Okay, so should be more similar when it is allopatric, then remember this is 10 over here. I don't see the 10. Then when it is sympatric, when it's sympatric, it's gonna be more different. If it is allopatric, it's gonna be more similar. Okay, so allopatric, more similar, more different when it is sympatric. So the answer should be B. A virgin pine forest covers a valley, and one of the inhabitants is a red squirrel species. Okay, so red squirrel species. Okay. A large volcanic eruption occurs and separates the valley with huge lava flow. So it's gonna be two different area. This is lava over here. So area one, area two. So this is ancestor squirrel, one going here, one going to the second area. So this is going to be allopatric, right? So speciation due to different geographical area. Okay. A large volcanic eruption occurs and separates the valley with a huge lava flow, thus producing two populations of squirrel. What must occur for the two population of squirrel to be considered separate species? So after they separate, they're gonna create new species, and both of these species will have what we call the barrier. or isolation. Remember the previous question, before speciation, there will be a mechanism of isolation or barrier. Okay, look at that. Well, the two square problems must fit on different species plan is not really the answer. The two environments must change so that the population exists in distinct habitats. The fur color or other molecular characteristics in the two square population must become distinct. It's not really. Sometimes they are still the same. But the most important is they will not be able to reproduce anymore if they mate between these two different species because there is a reproductive barrier or isolation. This should be the answer. The most common mechanism for sympatric speciation in plant is, so plant, I mentioned before, there is a sudden process from diploid 2N into, let's say, 4N, tetraploid. Okay, tetraploid. This is called the polyploidy. Okay, so this is a process that usually happenings in plant, and this plant is actually live in the same area. So the same area. So in the same area, you will find some species still in diploid form, and some become a new species with polyploidy or tetraploid chromosome. Okay, it's going to be sympatric. Yeah, sympatric, yes, in the same area. And it's going to be spontaneous mutation. Okay, so yeah, so it's going to be the over here. Okay, the polyploidy that most of the time is going to be some spontaneous. So the most correct answer is going to be the polyploidy process that most of the time is spontaneous. The sunflower species Helianthus anomalus is thought to have been formed by hybridization between the sunflower species Helianthus petiolaris and Helianthus annus because it contains a set of chromosomes from both parents. So two species. Okay, Helianthus P and Helianthus A. Let's say it has 2N is, let's say, 12 chromosome, and this one have 2N is 8 chromosome. They can combine to create a new species, okay, which is Helianthus anomalus over here. Okay. And these actually have the combination of these two chromosomes. This process is called the alloploidy, which is the chromosome, the ploidy over here, is coming from different. Remember, allo means different species. Species 1 and species 2 creating this species 3. So that process is called the alloploidy. One species have form, they keep their identified by. Again, before speciation, there is a mechanism, it's called the barrier or isolation. So this identity, they kept this identity by barrier or isolating mechanism. Okay, now that barrier mechanism, okay, barrier or isolation that causing two species will not be able to produce viable or fertile offspring. There are two main types. The first one is called the pre-zygotic. It is happening before the mating. So they have this isolation to make the two species will not mate because of this barrier. Okay, pre-zygotic. The second one is called the post-zygotic barrier. Okay, so the post-zygotic barrier, the two organisms or the two different species might be able to mate. Okay, but because of this barrier, the the zygote may be not developed, or if it is produced the offspring will be sterile. Okay, so that's the two type of barrier. The pre-zygotic, there are four different type, A, B, C, and D. Okay, the pre-zygotic, the first one, if it is different time, is called the temporal. Like for examples, there are some different species that have mating season, different mating season. It's called the temporal. Some species in June, the other species, for example, in August. So these two species will not be able to mate because of the temporal pre-zygotic barrier. The second one is called the mechanical barrier. Okay. This is due to different sex organ, for example. So like for elephants and cow, for example, they have different sexual organ. They will not be able to mate. This is called a mechanical barrier. The next one is called the geographical or ecological barrier is due to different place. So if they live in different area, they will not be able to mate. And this barrier is called the geographical barrier. And the last one is behavior. Behavioral barrier, for example, if you see the bird, they have different type of dancings before mating. So different bird will have different type of dancing. This is called the behavioral barrier. So that's for the pre-zygotic. For the post-zygotic, there are two types. Okay. So the first one, yes, they're able to mate, but the zygote is uh, inviable, is not viable. It means the zygote will die during pregnancy. Okay. The second one, yeah, they're able to mate. They might produce offspring, but the offsprings will be sterile, sterile offspring. Example, okay, a horse and donkey, they might be able to mate and produce animal or offspring is called the mule. So the mule, this is actually what also we call this is hybrid. So this mule is actually sterile. Uh, this is the post-zygotic barrier. Okay, so I hope you study this, okay? Different type of isolation, pre-zygotic and post-zygotic. Now we go back to the question. Which of the following is an example of pre-zygotic barrier? Hybrid? No. Hybrid is post-zygotic. Unviable embryo? No. This is over here. Okay? Zygote. Okay? Unviable zygote or unviable embryo. That's post-zygotic. Different mating behavior. Behavior. Yes, that should be the answer over here. Okay? Mating between male and female horse. This is not uh, isolation. Okay? So C should be the answer. Which of the following is an example of post-zygotic? Of course. Again, if you follow the explanation, this should be the answer right away. A. Sterile hybrid. Example is mule. Okay. Which isolating mechanism is post-zygotic? Post-zygotic, again, hybrid sterility. So that's the answer. When species are kept separate by preventing the formation of hybrid zygotes, the mechanism that keep the species separate is known as blank isolating mechanism. Uh, hybrids, hybrids. So it's gonna be pos, right? So pos is a example is hybrid zygote, which is most of the time the hybrid will be sterile. Which of the following is an example of pre-zygotic mechanism? Reproductive barrier between different species. So pre-zygote, different mating time. Yes. Is an example of pre-zygotic mechanism. Reproductive barrier between different species. Different mating time, different sexual organ, different mating behavior, different habitat between deer and mouse. Mechanical. Oh, yeah. So this is the clue. So what is mechanical? Different sexual organ. Okay. Different morphology. So this should be B. Okay. So mechanical reproductive barrier. Which is a sample of temporal. Temporal. What is temporal? Okay, choose your answer. Temporal is time. Different mating season, for example. So let's say one plant bloom in June and July, the others August and September. They will not be able to mate because they have different season for blooming. This is right away already. A should be the answer. Males of many marsupial species have forked penises that are incompatible with anatomy of female placental mammals. Okay, so marsupial species like kangaroo, for example, okay, they have different sexual organ compared to some placental mammals. Okay, which type of isolating mechanism does this represent? So this is different sexual organ is mean mechanical. So should be that answer. Several species of sea urchins might inhabit the same tide pools, and their reproductive periods overlaps. Although they practice external fertilization, they seldom interbreed because eggs produce chemicals that are only attractive to sperm of their own species. This is an example of blank barrier that blank. Okay, so this one should be because happening before the zygote formation is gonna be pre-zygotic. All of them give the pre-zygotic. So this one should be all. Oh, this one should be incorrect right away. This is post-zygotic. Okay, so these are pre-zygotic. Uh, Geographical actually, no, they live in the same place. So this is not. Temporal, no, they actually have the same time of reproduction. So this is not the answer. But they have different mechanism. So the mechanism that prevent gamete fusion. So this should be the answer. Okay, so this should be, I'm sorry, this should be C over here. So prezygotic prevent gamete fusion. This is a mechanical barrier. Two bird species have different mating call. Oh, mating call. What is this? Behavior. Eh? Occupy different habitats in nature, and when they hybridize, the hybrids are infertile. Which isolating mechanism maintain this species? They have different mating call, different habitat, so behavior, and then different habitat. This is geographical. Okay. Okay, so they have mating call is behavior, mechanical, ecological. So this is the behavior over here. Different habitat is geographical or ecological. And then when do they do mate, they will produce sterile hybrids. So this is hybrid sterility. Mechanical, this is not mechanical, no mechanical. This is not temporal. So this should be the answer. So this is how you find the answer. Okay, look at the key for the question. Yeah. So there is ecological is isolation, which is different habitat. There is a behavioral is a isolation, which is a mating cause. And there is also post-zygotic, which is hybrid sterility. So A should be the answer. Many male songbirds have very distinctive song. Again, this is behavioral. Okay, so dancings, mating call, that's behavior that are used to attract female. These songs are example of a blank isolating mechanism. This is behavior and this is pre-zygotic, okay, before formation of zygote, before mating. So this should be the answer. In the southeastern United States, two species of wild lettuce do not usually form hybrids because they bloom at different season. No, different season. What is that? Temporal, right? The means of isolation appears to be, this is again before mating, so it's going to be look for the pre. This is pre, yes, this one is not the answer. Temporal time. The hundreds of species of Drosophila in Hawaii exhibit different mating ritual. What is this? Behavior. Yeah. This isolating mechanism is, again, this is before mating. It's going to be pre, but this is behavior. So this should be the answer. Any selection process involving human activities such as farming and domesticating animal is called, this is not natural selection, but it is artificial selection. So all process done by human to select species is called artificial selection. Which statement describe artificial selection but not natural selection? Look for that one. Okay, artificial involving human. Most organisms are capable of producing more offspring than typically survive. Phenotypic variation is mostly selected by human. Okay. Phenotypic variation exists within population. Phenotypic variation can influence. No, this should be this one, B. Domestication of dogs has led to what is the dogs breeding produce different type, eh, different phenotype of dogs. Okay, it's called the breeds. Okay, different type of dogs due to this domestication of dog. Okay, so a variety of phenotypes. Comparing The evolution of domesticated dogs to the evolution of wolf is to illustrate that relationship between artificial and natural selection. Artificial selection is slower than natural. Most of the time, artificial selection is faster because human involvement by select the species or the characters that they want is going to be faster. It's not slower. Artificial selection is reversible. Natural selection is not. Maybe, but that's not actually the answer. Uh, Artificial selection is more likely to produce maladaptive structure than natural selection. That's most likely the case. So many artificial selection is actually looking for the best characters that is used by human, but most of the time this character is not used in nature. So when this artificial selection species live in nature, most of the time they will not survive because they will not have the ability to survive due to this what we call the maladaptive structure. They are not compatible again to live in wild, uh, natural place. Cannot produce genes as let us know. This is not so. C should be the answer. Considerably more phenotypic variation exists in domesticated varieties of species like dogs and cabbages that exist in non-domesticated species like lions and oak trees. What best explain why this is true? There is no selection in random selection, and mating is random under domestication. Yeah, there is selection, so this is not the answer. During domestication, very high rate of mutation are induced. Could be, okay. Genetic drift is important because domestication involves small population. No, sometimes there are yeah, involve many population in domestication. Many domesticated varieties would not. That this is the one that we already mentioned before. Most of the domesticated animal will not survive because they actually have less characters that causing them to not be able to survive in wild. eh? So this is what we call the maladaptive. Okay, so many domesticated varieties will not survive in natural world. Some of the most dramatic evidence for evolution has come from human agriculture. One of the most artificially selected crop plant is blank, which is very different than the parent of Teosinte plant. So this plant is actually wild, okay, wild corn. So from the wild corn, so the wild corn usually have a very little or very few grain. Eh? So with this domestication or artificial selection, then we have the corn that have a lot of grain and sweet, for example, okay, compared to the wild type. So this is a wild type of corn. So this is corn. A certain plant species has small, thin seed and can grow and produce seed in either wet years or dry years, so all seasons. Okay, so they're able to produce in the all season. Imagine that this plant species became invasive in Galapagos Island and outcompeted most of the native plants. How would you expect this change to affect evolution of big size in the medium ground finch population? So let's say the native plants, they actually have a bigger seed. It means that the ground finch will have bigger, big, okay, bigger, big. No, due to this invasive species over here that have small seed, the big will follow this, will adapt to this smaller seed. It means that it's gonna be smaller, big. Okay, so that should be the answer. Look for the small. So small, big, small, big. Yeah. So one of these. Now, what is the next? Would be favor under all rainfall. Uh, because it is say wet and dry all season. So this should be the answer. So A should be the answer. B is not correct. Yes, because it said small during wet year and large during the dry years. It is not because these invasive species or plant, they live or they produce in wet or dry years. So A should be the answer. In studying the medium ground fins on Daphne major, the Grants noted that each generation of finches had beaks. So this is a part of evolution. So the beak that the new generation have is actually based of the ancestor or the parent beaks that suitable during their ancestor environment that continuously available for the new generation. So should be best suited to the parent. Okay, so this is the parent. So that beak is actually uh, inherited from the parent due to the parent environment. The shape of the beaks of Darwin finches and industrial melanism. So this is, if you read the book, industrial melanism is actually the process of selection that caused by pollution. And this is still natural selection, right? As example, a process of blank leading to evolutionary change. So this is natural. This is a natural selection. Right? So human actually do not really select the finches or the moths that live in the polluted area. The nature that select them. So this is a natural selection. Scientists found that different beak shape correlate with different mating song in Darwin finches. Which hypothesis is most likely to explain this? So again, you have to think about what is happening over here. So the big size is actually based on the food or habitat where they live. So the big shape, okay, should be caused. So the first evolution will be the type of food available, and after that the behavior, yeah, the dancing or the song, the mating song. Darwin finches are not different according to, no, Darwin finches, they are actually different species. Adaptation to different food source led, yes. So this is the first one of it, adaptation to the food source, and then it will lead to the behavioral change. It's not adaptation to different food source. Food source occur after reproductive isolation in Darwin. So adaptation to the food and then causing also adaptation to their behavior. That's the most likely correct explanation for this or hypothesis for this. During our study abroad in Costa Rica, so actually we went to Costa Rica last year. And we found and we learned, we observed figs tree or fruit. When we open, we crack the fruit, we actually found wasps in it that is very specific for the figs. And this wasps, okay, this wasp actually help the fig, yeah, the flower to pollinate. pollination. So they are dependent to each other. This relationship is so deeply intertwined that neither species can survive without the other. So this is an example of. So the fixes actually will not live without the wasp because the wasp actually help them to reproduce, and the wasp is only only able to take nutrient from this fig fruit. So this is a type of what we call the co-evolution. So they evolve together. They evolve together. In a non-polluted environment, blank. So what is happening? So this is, let's say in the non-environmental evolution, usually like the tree, okay, because there is no pollution, the tree is gonna be lighter, non-polluted. Okay, if there is a pollution, there's a pollution, the tree bark will be darker. Okay, it's a darker color. Okay, now we have these two information over here. In the non-pollution area, the tree bark will be lighter, and in the pollution area, the tree bark will be darker. Now, there is a moth that live in this area. There are two types of moth. One is lighter color, and the other one is darker color. Okay, darker color. So, on the non-polluted area, the one that gonna be live most likely will be the one that have lighter color because it can camouflage with the bark of the tree, so the bird will not be able to see them to prey on them. The darker color that live in non-polluted area, they usually small number because they are gonna be easily to be preyed by the bird. Yeah. In contrast, in polluted area, because the tree bark is darker, the darker moth will be abundant because the lighter moth will be easy to be preyed by the bird. So this is the idea of this natural selection due to the pollution. Now, let's go back to the question. In a non-polluted environment, again, the bacteria gonna be lighter. Light color moth or individual predominating due to selection. Yes, over here. Light color until dying due to selection. No. Darker color until predominating due to selection. Non-polluted, it is not. Increased mutation rate due to no. So A should be the answer. Industrial melanism, so the process that we just mentioned before is called the industrial melanism, which is selection of species due to the color. Okay, melanin mean dark or pigment, darker pigment. Industrial melanism refer to high rate of melanin due to pollution, darker color to dying due to selection in a polluted area. No, this is not darker color to predominating due to selection in ES. Increased mutation rate due to pollution. Okay, so this is actually the answer. This is a natural selection due to the pollution. It's called the industrial melanism. Natural selection has favored the dark form of pepper moth in areas subject to severe air pollution. Perhaps because on darkened tree, moth-eating birds see them less easily. Right, that's correct. As pollution abated or decreased, the light form moth increased in the population because the bark tree now is become lighter, so lighter population will be reproduce more, will be less preyed by the bird. Had lower? No. Light must survive and produce more often than dark? Yes, that's the answer. Light must were more genetically variable than no. Birds are more, ate more light more. No. Okay, because when the condition is lighter, then the light moth will be less eaten. So B should be the answer. Industrial melanism involving the pepper moth is an example of natural selection that has been observed in the last 100 years. Pepper moths have two distinct forms with dark or light colored wings. Which of the following statement about this moth is true? The dark form are selected again in non-polluted area. I think that's the dark form are distasteful to bird, no. And the light form are selected again, non-polluted area. Non-polluted area is no, because in non-polluted area, the non-polluted area, this moth will be thrive, will be abundance. Okay, the light one. Bird prey more in the dark form in polluted forest. No, because the dark form in polluted forest uh, will not be seen, cannot be easily seen by the bird, yeah, because they have the same dark color. So it's likely A is the answer. Yes, the dark form are selected against in non-polluted area. So in the non-polluted area, the dark moth will be eaten more by the bird. In hypothetical study, equal number of dark and light moths are marked and released in polluted and unpolluted woodlands. Then some are recaptured 10 days later. According to the industrial melanism hypothesis, what result would you predict? So this study is actually called the capture mark recapture CMR method. So one of my students actually did this uh, study or research with me, okay, uh, using the LAD4 project last year, the CMR capture mark recapture. So this is just telling you there's a study called the CMR. So this study using the CMR using the moth in polluted and non-polluted. Okay, now equal number of dark and light moth are marked and released in polluted and unpolluted. Then recapture. Okay, more dark moths should be recaptured in unpolluted woodland than in polluted woodland. More, that should be yes over here. Yeah. More light moths should be recaptured in polluted woodland than in unpolluted. So light mode in polluted area, yes, it's gonna be C easily. And let's see, dark mode should be recorded in unpolluted. Unpolluted is yeah. More dark mode should be recaptured in polluted woodland than in unpolluted woodland. More dark modes. No. More of both type of modes should be recaptured. No. Okay, look at this one. Should be, this look like the same. Dark, easily to see in unpolluted. That's correct. Then in polluted, that's correct. More light, more lightness in polluted woodland, that's in unpolluted. So this is kind of ambiguous answer over here because A and B look like the same answer. Let's see what is the actually. More dogma should be recaptured in political land. Then, oh, okay, that's just correct. Okay. Because what? Yeah, because there will be more dark mode in polluted area. Okay, so they are actually more abundant because they're gonna be less being eaten by the bird. Therefore, okay, in this study, on the recapture study, you should catch more dark moth in polluted area because they are more abundant. So more abundant. Yes, so C should be the answer. So yes, it's kind of confusing, but again, this is based on their abundancy. So dark moth will live more or more abundant in polluted area. Therefore, you will get this moth more in polluted area compared to the in unpolluted area. Okay, so that should be the answer. Okay. Which alternate hypothesis might also explain industrial melanisms? Okay, so it's alternate. This is kind of guessing over here. Okay, the dark moth live in the gonna be more in the polluted area, right? In polluted area because they are less being seen by the bird. That's one hypothesis. The second hypothesis, it could be that the dark moths are more resistant to the toxic effect. So they be more abundant because they are more resistant. Okay, so that's could be. That could be the alternate hypothesis for why there are more dark moths in the polluted area. Yes, so that's kind of a second or alternative hypothesis that we can make. A scientist studying pepper moth in Michigan observed that the percentage of melanic moth increased by around 2%. So melanic moth mean dark. Okay, dark moth increased by around 2% in 1960 to 1961. Has evolution occurred in these populations? Okay, is is there any population that's occurred? Yes or no? Is the answer should be yes, yeah, because there is a slow change. So it says the answer yes. Now, what is next? Because the frequency of the melanic moth in the population change over time, the frequency of melanic moth decrease. Yeah, this is because of this. This is change over time. That's actually the definition of evolution, which is the change of characteristic in populations over time, over long period of time. So C should be the answer. Similarity in DNA sequence of horse and donkey is an example of evidence of evolution based on DNA. This is molecule. So this is based on molecular evidence. So there are several type of evidence evolution. One of them is called the fossil record. The second one is anatomy and embryology, which is homologous similarity of anatomy and embryological development. And then biogeography, due to biogeography. And the last one is molecular biology. So when we talk about DNA, human, for example, will be closely related to chimpanzee because their DNA is similar. Compare human to plant, for example, or banana, because they have a huge difference DNA sequence. So this evidence is called the molecular evidence. A technique used in dating a rock can be used to accurately predict the age of the fossil occurring in the rock. This technique involves fossil dating, successive rock layering, radioactive acid of decay, structural geology. So this one, the most common use, famous, is called carbon dating. Why is carbon dating? Because carbon, it has radioactive, eh, radioactive isotope like C15, for example. So this is radioactive that's usually used to guess or predict the age of the rock. So this is called a radioactive isotope decay. Today, the fossil record can be dated only in terms of how layers relate to each other. Older layers are below younger layers. No actual date can be estimated. Okay, yes, we can estimate. Can be dated reasonably well only with uranium. No, there are other radioactive uh, elements that can be used. Can be dated reasonably when using a variety of radioactive isotopes with known half-life. This is very important. Known half-life. Okay? Can be dated precisely to within a single year using. So the answer should be C. Progressive changes in the fossil record are evident for evolution because progressive change in fossil record. They show descent with modification. They show inheritance acquired. No, they don't really. They show evolution change at the level of individual. Now, remember, evolution is a level of population. They show gaps in the fossil record. No. Okay. So this one. So there is a descent with modification in the fossil record. Radioactive isotopes are used in dating material from the distant past. Which of the following statements about radioactive dating technique is true? It gives only general age of age strata, 100 million years. It gives exact, oh no, it's not exact age. The younger the rock, the more radioactive decay. The older the rock, this is actually the truth, right? The older the rock, more radioactive decay. Which feature is visible in the Archaeopteryx? Archaeopteryx, this is fossils that look like bird but still have some reptile characteristic and share with modern birds. So this is look like a bird, right? Uh, Visible, right? So what bird character that visible for us? What is that? Feathers. Okay, feathers. Okay, so this will be the answer. Now, Archaeopteryx actually they have beak but the beak has teeth. Okay, so that's not a bird beak. That's a reptile mouth or can say beak, right? Mouth that have teeth. So, but the one that really close as a modern bird for in this Archaeopteryx fossil is the feature of the feathers. In 2006, scientists discovered a fossil that had scales, scale, and then gills. So this is fish, right? Gill, mostly fish, a flat head with eyes on top like crocodile, and fin. This is also fish, right? Fin and neck bone that would allow it prop itself out of the water. The best explanation for this fossil is that it is. Yeah, this fossil should be transition between fin, gill, fish, gill, which is fish, to the one that has scale, uh, flat head with the eyes. This is like some characters of amphibian. So fish to amphibian. Okay, this is not reptile to mammal. Okay, so it should be this one. The most likely explanation for why toothed whales have a blowhole is okay. So what is blowhole? Is actually nose, or in animal is called nostril. So it means that this whale is actually evolved from animal that have nostril. Okay. It is animal with gills. No, yes. So animal with nostril. During development, human embryos have pharyngeal pouches or gill slits, okay, that later develop into various glands. Fish embryo also have pharyngeal pouches, but this develop into gills. The best explanation for why both human and fish embryo have pharyngeal pouches is they have the same ancestor, right? They have shared the common ancestor that had gill, common need gills lead to breathe in the no human and fish both develop and for by random chance. No, fish is for from no human. Right, so this should be the answer. They share common ancestor. Structure that have no apparent function but had a function in ancestor species is called. So in the ancestor species, this structure may be important, but on the new generation, the modern species is not functional, but it's still there. So the things that are the structure that's still there, but no really function is called vestigial. It's called vestigial structure. Example in human is appendix. Appendix is vestigial structure without function. But in the ancestor species, yeah, this vestigial structure used to be part of the digestive system that important to digest mostly like cellulose. Okay, so this vestigial structure. The side toes of the horse. So side toes of the horse, the pelvis of the whale, and the human appendix. We just mentioned that. Example of what is vestigial. So the presence on the parental or ancestral species, and they are important, but it's not important for the modern species. Again, this structure is called the vestigial structure. Homologous structure. What is homologous structure? Okay, so there are two types of structure. We call this homologous. Okay, the second one is called the analogous structure. So homologous structure is the structure that coming from the same or if from the same body part from the ancestor that showing the common ancestor. The function may be different. Like for example, the bird wings and human upper arm, they are actually homologous structure because they have the same anatomy. So they have humerus, radius ulna, and etc. Okay, in the bird wing and human upper limbs or bat wings, they are homologous structure. Analogous structure mean the structure maybe look have the same function, but they are not coming or evolve from the common ancestor. Example, if the bird wing and the insect wings, this function is the same for flying, but they are not coming from the same ancestor. Okay, so that's analogous. Yeah, so look at this one. Homologous mean evolve independently, look different, but evolve from the same body part of common ancestor is look like, have the same appearance and function could be, so the function sometimes not the same. Like in human, is the upper arm is used for grabbing, but in bird, the wing is for flying. It's different function, have different appearance and functional. So this should be this one. Maybe look different, but they evolve from the same body part of the common ancestor. All vertebrate contain a similar pattern of organ, indicating that they are related to one another. This revision of which following line of evolutionary evidence. Okay. For the content similar pattern of organ, that's gonna be the homology. So this is homologous structure. Complete the sentence to make it correct. Birdwing and batwing are homologous to. Homologous to what? Uh, Archaeopteryx wings could be, yeah, to each other. Yes, could be each other to each other, and insect wing too. No, as vertebrate forelimb, yes, but not as a wing. So should be the answer over here. Okay, so the birdwing and batwing are homologous for other vertebrate with their forelimbs, or in human is called the upper limbs. Which of the following part of animal are homologous structure? Again, we continue this topic, homologous and analogous structure. Wing of the bird and wing of butterfly is not homologous. It is analogous. Right? Which of the bat and front leg of the horse? Yes. Human upper limb? No. None of the above. So it should be this one. Parental care in dinosaurs, crocodile, and bird is an example of this is homology. So this is homology by common descent. The evolution of similar form in different lineage when exposed to the same selective pressure is called similar form in different similar form. The function is the same like butterfly wings and the bird wing. They have different lineage. They do not have the same ancestor. This is what we call the convergence. So convergence will produce analogous structure. Okay, like bird wing, okay, and insects wings. They have the same structure, they have the same functions for flying, but they are not coming from the same ancestor. That one is called the convergence. Okay, convergence evolution. The observation that different geographical areas sometimes exhibit plant and animal communities of similar appearance, even though the individual plants and animals are not closely related, is called. Again, it's going to be the same things. They are similar but not coming from uh, the same ancestor is called the convergence. So convergence evolution. The marsupial in Australia closely resemble to the placental animal of the rest of the world. This is examples of, this is again the same. Okay, this is convergence, evolution. They look the same, but they are not really coming from the same ancestor. The convergent evolution of streamlined bodies seen in shark, tuna, dolphin. Okay, so they're all not related. So dolphin is a mammal. Okay, tuna is a bone fish. Shark is cartilaginous fish. So they are different line. Okay, different line, but they have the same streamlined body, which is the same function over here. Okay, so that's actually that streamlined body is a selection. This is convergent selection for fast swimming. So this is convergence. Plants in desert adapted families like cactus and euphorbia share many of the same physical characteristics, such as succulent stem that store water and chem photosynthesis. Okay, but they do not share a resin common. So this is different. Okay, ancestor. This evidence suggests that these families are example of, again, if it is not the same ancestor, it's gonna be convergence, evolution. They have maybe the same function, but different ancestor, different evolution. Which of the following part of animals are analogous? Again, this is convergence theory or evolutions. Wing of bird and wing of butterfly. Yes, wing of bird. This is homologous. Human upper limb. Uh, this is not analogous. This is because this one is for fly. The structure is the same. The function is the same. That's what we call the analogous over here. Okay, this is not A should be the answer. Evolution does not violate the second law of thermodynamics because, so basically, our Earth is not closed environment or not closed uh, system, because the energy or the sun energy essentially must be provided from the sun. It's open. So energy, Earth is not closed system. In constantly receive the input. So evolution will not violate this. A place where organisms live is called habitats. So the place where animal live or organism live is called just as simply habitats. The role of function of an organism in its habitat is called, this is terminology, is called niche. So niche is the roles of or function of organism in habitat. Like for example, plants, they live in, let's say, in the forest habitats, right? But what are their needs? They actually produce oxygen. They give. They become food for herbivores, etc. That's what we call the needs, the function. Okay, what is our function? So we are omnivore. Right? We produce carbon dioxide, for example. That's the function, the niche. Many species might coexist in particular environment by occupying different ecological. So many organisms can live in the same habitats, Okay, like for example, you see that buffaloes in grassland, there are many of them. Okay, they live in the same habitat, but each of them will have their own each role or needs. Okay, so there is no two organisms that have the same needs in the same habitat at the same place at the same time. So even though they live in the same habitat, their role will be different. If they do have or they live in the same place, the same time, on the same needs, then they will fight and they will compete until one of them leave the area or maybe die. So there are many different, they will have different role. They live in the same place, but they will have different role. There are no two individuals will have the same roles in one or the same habitats. Which of the following fish fossil was considered as the ancestor of land animals? So we're talking about fossil. So the fish that become land animal like amphibian. Okay, that's kind of the first land animal, which even though this is called the amphibian, they still live in two ecosystem, water and land. Eh? So the fish that evolved into this amphibian is called the Tiktaalik. So Tiktaalik is the name of fish fossil that ancestor for land animal, in this case amphibian. Which of the following fossil that's considered as the ancestor of modern bird? We already talked about that, which is the Archaeopteryx. It has both character of reptiles and bird. And this is the one that became the ancestor for the modern bird. Okay, which of the following reptile fossil that actually evolved into mammal, the ancestor of mammal? So this fossil that evolved to mammal, yeah, it's called the therapsid. So that's the name of the fossil of reptile that evolved into mammals. Okay, therapsid. I think that's all. So I hope you study this, and I wish that you will get a very good grade for this first exam. So good luck.